So I am still in Plat 5.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's been a couple of weeks and I feel like I'm doing what you have said is good. Like I'm still limiting my hero pool. I'm
Yep.
still like going in focused, practicing like my one thing every game. For Ana, I think it was good sightlines, nade usage maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And for Kiri, it's just angles.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm much more knowledgeable about the game. I feel very good about that. But when I don't see number go up, I get sad, if that makes any sense, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
probably not a good mentality to have. But
Yeah.
I just had questions about not seeing like tangible progress. I feel
Yep.
like a little bit more knowledgeable about the game, but it's been you know, I've evaluated my practice. I think like I'm doing the right things, and I'm wondering why I'm not seeing progress.
Yeah. I mean, good question. I mean, I think the key thing here is that like focusing on the numbers short term is really, really bad, right? Like obviously that distracts you from what you should be aiming for. Stop trying to win the game. Focus on doing what you are doing. But I think the more important question is: do you feel like you are a not infinitely, but noticeably, significantly better player than you were 2 months ago? And if so, what? What aspect of you is significantly better? You said understanding, maybe. Is there anything else that comes to mind, or is it mostly just that?
I've also I have talked to a pro player, like I don't know, I think he's like tier 2, tier 3 maybe. At my school, and he put me on an aim training routine. My scores have improved pretty well. And in Kovacs, and so I feel like my mechanics are good enough, let's
The
say.
question is has that translated in game tangibly?
I think so.
Okay. In what way? Are you
Uh,
just better at winning duels, better at farming ult charge, up close, up far? Is it on a Curie or both?
I'd say both. I was just curious, so I queued a couple games on DPS as Sojourn, and I kind of like wiped the floor in
Sure.
gold. So
Okay. 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 Fair enough. Fair enough. Kind of small sample size. Okay. So maybe
yeah,
mechanics have gotten a little bit better. What else in 2 months? Anything else? Do you feel like your Suzus, your angles, let's just start with angles, right? Do you feel like your angles with Kiriko are significantly better?
I think so.
Okay.
From the first replay to now, I think it's just a very much a huge change.
Okay. What about your Ana, your anti-nades, and maybe your positioning aspects, your sightlines with Ana as well?
I'd say a lot better once I
Okay.
started focusing on that. Yeah.
Okay. 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 So if all of these things have gotten better in your Platinum 5, then either there are things that have gotten worse, you have not there are aspects that have gotten worse, and that might include some of your practice time, right, which we'll go to in a second, or you're a bad judge of how much that you've actually improved, one or the other. Because I think focusing on the numbers short term is really, really toxic. But if you have been doing the things that you ought to have been doing, according to your form training consistently, working on these things, then you would have improved in 2 months. That's a long enough sample size for you to improve, and yet you're still in Plat 5. So something's wrong. So I
Yeah.
think that like we don't want to focus on the number short term. It's really important that you don't, because otherwise the number will not go up. But if you have not been focusing on number and have been focusing on practice, then something is wrong. It's not normal for you to have this situation whatsoever. You
Okay.
could even just have not even a coach. Like, in other words, you wouldn't even need me to say that I'm not even here. But the last 2 months, you focused on a better practice routine, maybe took a couple of ideas and experimented with them. Without a coach, you should still be improving in 2 months from Plat 5 anyway. So something's wrong.
Okay.
So you are not doing
Right.
what you say that you're doing. You're either not self-aware of what you're doing, or there's something else that's crept in. So sadly, this is where I have limitations with what I can do. But this is what I would suggest. Number one, you need to practice being self-aware of your practice. You tell me that you've done a much better job of practicing deliberately. Are you taking breaks? Are you warming up? Are you sleeping well? Do you know any answers to
Uh,
any of those?
I am sleeping well.
Okay, excellent.
I do warm up with Kovacs and like a little bit of
How,
Vaxta, but
how long?
like 10 minutes maybe.
Sure. Okay, keep going.
Although, like the more I don't know. My first game is usually rough even after a warm up, but I
That's fine.
really don't like even if I lose that, I don't think it I guess those do add up over sessions. What was the third thing?
Do you feel like are you taking breaks? Are you consistent with the quality of your practice?
Yes. I
Okay.
feel that, especially over the summer where I'm more flexible with my schedule. Um, I
So
will
have
start taking breaks if I start tilting or start feeling like I'm tilting.
sure, sure.
And
Okay.
I don't practice every day, but I've practiced probably at least 5 days a
That's still
week.
decent. Yeah, that's enough for platinum. Okay. And hero pool is still relatively stable, simple, focused.
Yes.
Okay.
I dropped the brig and
I'm seeing that.
like
Yeah.
incorporated some BAP, but I really only play BAP either when I feel like it or when Ana and Curie are like banned and I need to.
Okay. Okay. What do you feel like is a problem? Maybe not. There isn't usually the problem. Very rarely. It's never that tight. It's usually a lot more complicated and nuanced than that. But do you have any guesses as to what seems to be ankle weighting you a little bit with your progress?
I'm not sure. Maybe it could be just like my general understanding of the macro of the game. Like
Okay. Could be.
I don't understand how the game works, or I haven't picked that up
Could be.
from 1,000 hours yet for some reason.
Well, I mean, it's a difficult game, and like 1,000 hours is chicken feed compared to most high ranked players. But I'm more concerned about the last 2 months, right? Where you've had dedicated goals
Right.
that hopefully better quality practice, and yet we've not seen that result in any improvement. Um, I don't have anything else from your form here. Do you have any other questions for me?
Yeah, well, I was talking with my friend and, trying to come up with some ideas and
Mm-hmm.
I I was like, okay, maybe I could kind of just like binge all of your previous like Kiriko Ana sessions and take notes on every single one of them and just like soak in the macro of the game like a sponge, just like soak in that information. Um, he also suggested that I like VOD myself and really take a look at whether I'm actually like taking those angles or getting those sight lines.
Mm-hmm.
And um and I know that this is probably also a bad mentality to have, but I was like, I don't know if that's necessary to get to diamonds. Like for him, he's on like I forgot if it was an expert or a
The Face It League thing.
yeah, the face it
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So for him it makes sense. And if I really wanted to like supercharge, I could, but I don't know. I feel like I'm owed something for my efforts.
Yeah,
And I
I see
mean,
what you're saying.
I'm not owed shit really, because
Yeah.
that's not how the world works. But yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. If you want to make your school's team in September, right? Like, progress is nonlinear. So maybe you're at a point in time to where, like, if you want to be for your school's team and you were with your school's team, do you think self review would be a nice habit to have at that point in time? Probably, right? So while it would be nice to be like, well, I shouldn't have to train like that level to get to one step where I'm ahead of now, if that's where you want to be at some point anyway, then maybe you should just start doing that.
I forgot to mention, I'm basically already on the school's team.
Gotcha. But
Because I've
no, go ahead,
because I've been friends with like everyone on the team, and the guy was like, yeah, I'm putting you on the team next semester because like
Okay.
we're just tight like that. And
Sure. Sure.
but what I also learned is that the team isn't really serious. I thought that collegiate would be like a lot more serious, and I feel like I'm more competitive and passionate about the game than most of everyone else, actually more than everyone else that's already on the team. Um, which is a weird feeling. So
Yeah.
honestly, I have no idea what I want to do at this point. I think I just want to rank up and then, after I get to masters, I can consider face it leagues.
Interesting. That might be something worth considering as well because I'm gonna be real. If you don't have any goals, and not by goals as in like you need goals to improve, but if you don't have any, not as clear of a desire of like what you want out of this game and where you want to be, then you're just not going to put the amount of focus and effort into it, and you're not going to even really realize it. When there's stakes, you just try harder, you practice harder. That's why ranked is important, because even if the rank doesn't matter in the short term, it does kind of force you to try and put a little bit more effort, because try as we might, we really don't like the number to go down, right? So it kind of forces you to improve just a little bit. It's not a good feeling. So maybe the most important thing before we get into gameplay review is to really just sit some time and think, take a walk, figure out what do you want out of this game? What's the point? You've already achieved your goal, so what now? You know,
What do you know about Face It leagues? Like, do you coach a lot of Face It players?
No, I'm not as involved. I mean, I've coached a lot of teams that compete in Face It, but I know very little about it.
Okay.
I encourage you to think about it.
Is it, if I set a goal, is it a good idea to make it lofty? You know, like
No.
I'm in
No.
like
No.
plat right now,
yeah.
and I'm like, okay, I want to make it to Face It. I don't know if that's like,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, no. Like when I'm talking about goal, I'm not saying that like you should aspire to be a professional bodybuilder. You get what I'm saying? Like you probably have no desire to be a professional bodybuilder, so why should you aim to be a professional bodybuilder, right? But when it comes to Overwatch, what is something that you would really like to achieve just because it sounds fun? Is there anything that you'd like to achieve? Like for example, right now, would I like to be Grandmaster? Yeah. Do I really want to be Grandmaster? No. No real reason to right now. Too busy coaching, too busy training. When new characters come out, I play them the Masters because that's something that I have to play to a certain extent so that I can coach the hero better. But I have no desire to become Grandmaster. I'd like to be Grandmaster, but I have no desire to be Grandmaster. That's the difference. You understand? Would you like to wake up tomorrow and be like the best Ana player? Yeah. But do you really, really want to be the best Ana player? Probably not. So when you talk about goals, I have no idea. That's you. What do you want? Do you even want anything? It's not that there's nothing wrong with not wanting anything more out of Overwatch, right? Because like it's not like let me just go to your Discord profile here. Streaming, gaming, studying, finger painting, you know, whatever. Like you're just there's a lot of things that you like, right? So you've achieved your Overwatch goals. So is that it? Maybe it is. You know, I have no aspirations or ambitions for professional Overwatch coaching anymore. Why? Because I already did what I wanted out of that. I'm done. So maybe Overwatch is the same for you. Maybe it's not. All I'm asking you is just to kind of think about it. You know, don't be motivated to aim high or aim low or even aim at all. I'm just asking for some consistency and coherency, because right now you paid a lot of money for a coaching session and we don't even know what for anymore, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's going to trickle down into how you play the game too. Because maybe this is a social game for you. Maybe this is just a fun side project that you want to learn, and maybe you'll get to Diamond, maybe you won't. I don't know. Or maybe it's something you're seriously going to take seriously. I don't know. It's just a video game.
I know. Yeah, I know. It's weird. The social thing is really weird. I know that I hate being plat, and that is probably a terrible motivator.
But why?
I don't want that to be my goal.
Right. But why?
But like, why? Because all of my friends have to hop on alts to be in a low enough rank to play with me. Every single one of them. And I absolutely despise that feeling.
Okay, it's not a great motivator, but to be honest with you, it is a goal. It is a motivator. So is it Diamond then? Diamond 5?
At least. Probably mid-Diamond.
Would that make the game more fun for you?
Kind of, but at this point, I enjoy solo queuing more than queuing with friends, because I've like been on this grind and I've like gotten used to it, and it's fun now.
Huh. Okay. I mean, that's very insightful. That's something to think about. You have a complicated thought process ahead of you. I encourage you to take a walk after this session if you have the time. Half an hour. Let me know. And seriously, let me know what you think. Like, if you come to any conclusions today, next week, I'm curious. You're like a scientific study for me, right? Like I occasionally get a student whose, goals are very ambiguous and tricky, and I'm curious to see where they lead you, right? But you need to do some self-reflection. I do this kind of stuff like literally every week, always reevaluating what I'm doing. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you come up with.
Okay.
Don't feel bullied into it from any real reason, just purely instinctual, purely intrinsic, right? And then evaluate from there. Like I said, there's really nothing wrong with being plat, right? You can't possibly be Grandmaster at everything. So what's going to be the plat thing? And you also said, interesting, that you actually like the game kind of where you're at right now. Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah. Well, yeah, not really. I guess honestly, I'd be satisfied if I got to masters because being in plat feels like okay, I'm better than I don't know what the rank distributions are anymore, but it's
You're
like
better than
what
average.
I'm better than average.
Yeah,
But masters is like top 10%, top 5%.
about
I'm
top
not
three
sure what the
percent. About top three
top
percent.
3%.
Yeah.
If I'm top 3% at something, or not, I guess diamond. I don't know, top 10%, something like
Yeah,
that.
top 10%.
Being like slightly better than average is not enough for me. I feel like I would
But
be
why?
happy being masters and not GM because GM is like top 1%. And it's like, I
Sure.
don't know if I could be top 1%. But like,
But
I'd
would
be
you be
happy if
happy?
I were hard stuck masters.
Is there anything in your life that you're plat at besides Overwatch?
I have never put so much time into something to be slightly above average,
That's
I
the
would
key.
say.
That's the answer I was looking for. Okay. But you also have to understand how that fundamental answer is flawed. What's the average amount of time? Okay, what are some other things that you enjoy doing or that you're decent at? Hobbies, maybe unrelated to gaming.
Hobbies. I got really good at the clarinet in high school, but that's
Sure.
like I would say I put like about the same amount of time, like thousands of hours probably, or not
Sure, sure.
thousands plural, but at least a
Yeah, yeah,
thousand.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. What do you think that the
But I got
average
like
like high school kid puts into clarinet? How many hours? Do you think that they put in as many hours as you?
the ones that, yeah, I would say so. I would say
Okay.
so.
So then when you say that, so you said you got really good at clarinet, but yet you said that the average person also put in the same amount of hours as you and was probably about as good as you, no?
The people I was surrounded with, like I would go to these competitions,
Yeah.
these like these regional bands, and they would gather like the best players.
Yeah.
So when I'm surrounded in that environment, I know the people around me have practiced as much as I am. The people in my school band barely practice at all, and they're not very good.
Right. So those are the bronze players. So you were plat. So you were just smurfing in your school and you felt good about it, and then, but you're still plat. This is a PvP game. You kind of see what I'm saying? Like, if you would feel a lot better at yourself if there was no matchmaker, and because the vast majority of players you'd play versus an Overwatch, you'd crush. You understand where I'm going with this?
Mm.
When you say that, oh, I'm really good, like I was really good, it's because you're comparing yourself to people that never practiced. Imagine if you did that with Overwatch, right? It's a PvP game. So you're going to play versus people that have put just as much time as you. So you're never going to feel like you're quite as good. You're always going to be wanting to push in and put in a little bit more time. Do you kind of see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Imagine if
Well,
you
the
were at a
thing is-
school that were all top level clarinet. What if you were at a music school and you're all top level clarinet players, right? Would you feel like you were good at clarinet anymore?
No. Yeah.
You know, it's a different thing. It's totally different. You know, I'm thinking about what does the average Overwatch player put into the game? Like if you pulled up a random account, right, in Overwatch, how many hours do you think would be on that account? At least, right? Hundreds, right? Basically the average account, hundreds of hours. Compare that to like literally any other skill. You know? Think about how good you could get at
Yeah.
art painting with hundreds of hours. Or another instrument completely with hundreds of hours. Do you see what I'm saying?
Counterpoint though,
Go for it.
a lot of the people that I surround myself with in Overwatch have played like a similar amount of time, yet are much higher rank than I am.
Yep. No, I've worked with those type of people all the time. I work with a person that was hard stuck silver after 3,000 hours. So this is where, let me actually link you a really short video here really quick. It's a really interesting question, and it's what talent is, all right? It's what talent is. This is the real talent. So talent is opportunity. I'm going to have to find this here. It was released a while ago. Basically, what talent is an accumulation of your life experience, giving you skills that allow you to excel in other things without as much time.
So you're saying these people might have had experience in first-person
Yes.
shooters before or something
or
like that.
just
Okay.
games in general. Like, for example, right now, if I went into Marvel Rivals or went into Valorant or went into CS, I would excel significantly faster than the average player. This is the video here. And it's not because I have necessarily an experience in that, but because I know first-person shooter fundamentals. I also am very good at board games, if I do say so myself. Why? Because I'm very good at problem solving, game design, game theory, and I generally will establish a pattern very quickly the first time I play a game. I don't fully understand the game the first or second or even third or fifth or 10th time I play it, but I quickly pick up on patterns that I can connect to quickly exploit something really fast, right? And that's something that I've done because I've basically played games and sports my whole life. I'm just generally a pretty athletic and pretty game-oriented person, right? I'm terrible at drawing, though. Why am I terrible at drawing? Is there something wrong with my brain or my arm? Not necessarily. I just don't have the same amount of experience that people have been drawing since childhood have. So if I picked up art, I could get very good at art if I wanted to, but it would take me longer than the more artistically inclined person because of the time that they spent from a very young age. You understand? So when you talk about your friends, if you investigated their last 15, 20 years of their life and what did it look like? What did they study? What did they enjoy? What mentality even did they bring to Overwatch? It's probably a little bit different than yours.
I did. I asked them because I was just curious. So for me, my first shooter was Fortnite back in middle school. And then that's immediately when I dropped it and played Overwatch in 2020. So this is basically my second shooter. Before that, I mean, I grew up with video games, but not really shooters. I think my sister and I played the Wii.
Yeah.
She had a DS. So stuff like that, just like childhood Nintendo stuff.
I mean, I had to basically learn mechanics from scratch, right? Overwatch was my first person shooter too. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. And my friends, they grew up playing there's that one Roblox game that's like kind of like Overwatch. It's Roblox Phantom Forces or something. And that's like technically a shooter or something. And he said he played that for like 4 hours a day. And I was like, damn, okay. You really like that. So yeah, it was just something to consider. And he's the same friend who kind of just played the game for fun and got to masters. And I'm like, how? Like, teach me how, you know?
I think that's another tricky thing too, is it doesn't, people, when they improve at stuff, it's not always through some diligent, focused effort either. It could just be because they really like playing the game and they just really enjoy it. Like, for example, when I play board games, again, I'm gonna be patting myself a lot in the back with this, so pardon this, right? But like, I don't necessarily focus on winning in board games because I have to win. I'm a diehard competitor. I just really like problem solving, right? I just really enjoy the process of applying myself to something, and I will just put hours and hours and hours and hours just because it's fun, right? When I played Sekiro, I wasn't like sweating my brains out because I had to be. It was just because I found the process of applying myself again and again fun. Your friend might be like that. They're not necessarily always the most serious people, but they just love grinding it. They just love playing it, right? A lot of the best Overwatch League pros are the people that just really like pouring hours into the game. They're not even necessarily, this is going to come across as rude, I know a couple, they're not even the most intelligent people ever. They just really like grinding Overwatch. You know, maybe that's not you. Maybe you like Overwatch, but either you're not as likely to apply yourself problem solving wise, or to apply yourself, you tend to get a little bit more emotionally involved than the average person, right? A lot of the people that succeed in Overwatch are coincidentally people that generally don't tilt that much. They just grind and they just don't really take it all that personally. They're competitive people because they enjoy playing, but they don't care as much about the win or loss. Like, they just play and it's just fun. I don't know. Very few pro players got pro because they really wanted to be pro and they just did everything to become pro. A lot of them just got really freaking good at the game because they just really liked the game. Again, that's talent right there. That's talent. Not that you're incapable of doing that. It's just, it's not something that comes quite as naturally to you because of what your life has been like up to this point. But you have other talents, right? And I also think just because something doesn't come easily doesn't necessarily mean that it's not worth doing either. If you enjoy Overwatch, then you should apply yourself to it and see what happens.
Yeah. There's a certain ego component.
There is.
Like, there's nothing else that I have struggled with this much in my life. And if I feel like I give up now, I would be letting myself down majorly. True. And I think that's especially frustrating because you can taste blood, right? You're so close, right? In many ways. But also at the same time, there's nothing wrong with quitting on something that's no longer enjoyable to you, right? What's a bigger personality strength? The ability to push through something that is really unpleasant that you don't actually want to do anymore, but you have to do it because you said that you would, or the maturity to sacrifice your ego to do something that's more productive. I don't where I stand now, I probably do need to do some self-reflection, like you said. But where I
It's
stand
tricky.
now, I feel like I I have frustrations with the process.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that I hate it though. Like my
Sure.
frustration is that I'm not seeing immediate results, but I feel like that's also just me, that's just a mentality thing.
It
Like
could
that
be.
is
It could
just
be.
kind of being
Yeah.
what's that super not superficial, but just like
Yeah.
wanting
Yeah.
the superficial things,
Yeah. Yeah.
wanting it quickly.
Like you said, this demands some self-reflection. Is it better for you to push through in the short term and to feel the accomplishment of I did it, and now I'm going to move on to something else? Or is it better to just pull the plug because the process starts to become hateful? The good news right now is that you seem to be enjoying the process, at least somewhat. You would agree, yeah?
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
I'm not exactly dragging my feet
yeah.
to turn on the game. So
Right, right. So
yeah,
let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. Maybe we'll look at some feedback here and keep going. But as soon as this process becomes so difficult or so frustrating or so unrewarding that you don't want to do it anymore, I would encourage you to pull the plug.
I
Oh
just
boy.
don't want these frustrations to build and make it unenjoyable because I see this like
Yes.
passion. Like I truly do want to understand the game, the like if there's no macro in this game, it's just people shooting each other. But the
Yeah.
macro is kind of like the chess, like how do you
Yeah.
position yourself and move and stuff. And I feel like that would be really interesting to understand. But I don't want this, well, like everything that I've said to grow so big, like the shadow to grow so big that it makes the game unplayable for me because
Sure.
I feel like that's just a reaction to what's actually happening in the game. And that's my reaction is under control by me. Like I can control that. And I truly think that there is like an underlying passion.
Sure. So let's focus on that. Let's channel that because that's the one thing that you seem to have going for you really strongly is that you just enjoy it and you describe it also from like a strategic standpoint. This is something that I want to pour myself into. So instead of worrying as much about your rank, I want you to focus on solving Kiriko positioning. All right? And let's do that in this VOD review right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you some feedback, I'm sure, here. But if your goal is to find the chess in this first-person shooter, let's do it. So do you want to start with the Busan or do you want to start with the Runesapi Ilios? What do you want?
Let's do Runesapi.
Okay. Very
I had a quick
interesting
question
game.
though.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, very interesting game. I'll let you watch it. How do you learn like macro of this game? How did you become an Overwatch League coach? Like how
Sure.
did you figure out what I know my pro
Yeah.
friend talks about stuff like turns and lane overload and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't understand these words yet, but
It's building owls brick by brick is what it is. You start with certain things that like I think putting the crosshair in their head and shooting him is really good. And then you go to like, okay, when should I heal? When should I damage? And then you go, okay, where should I damage or where should I heal from? Okay, so should I do that and when should I do this? You don't know. You don't know. Like when I started, like I'm gonna be honest with you. Again, this entire review is full of ego moments, so I apologize. But there was
no,
nothing
you're
out
good.
there. There was no information. Any first-person shooter fundamentals were like completely different games that nobody really thought about applying to hero shooter. Like CS, nobody thought about like applying CS fundamentals to Overwatch. Right? Totally different game. Totally different process. Educational resources were garbage. Nobody understood anything. There's a lot of misinformation. A lot of it was really basic, like to winning a cooldown trait, but nobody understood basic positioning outside of hold cover, hold corners, right? At least in the West, right? I don't know what it was like in Korea, Japan, China, whatever. And I do think that a lot of our understanding of it has kind of come from questions that I had to ask while coaching professional Overwatch and trying to bring that into the more casual sphere, like holding angles, map control, layering, stuff like that. I'm not saying that I necessarily pioneered all of these things by myself. All I'm saying is that I had a lot of that responsibility bringing that to the casual understanding, this professional level stuff. And to be frank with you, even the professional understanding of that, at least in the West, was really bad. A lot of professional Overwatch NA EU coaches had a really limited understanding of how Overwatch worked. But the only reason I was able to discover these things, at least on my own, was through trial and error and experimentation. And to be honest with you, it started one day when we were playing a Brigitte Zen Ball Sigma mirror, and I had gotten really good at understanding layering and this and that. And I asked myself, should my Zenyatta be shooting the Wrecking Ball or Diva across the map, farming 5 orbs on their backline? Or what if he just body shot their Tracer one time on that angle, so that my Tracer wins that angle, and then now my Tracer can dive their backline? What's more valuable, 120 damage on main or 60 damage on the flank? And it started with that one question that kind of exploded from that. But the concept is not important. What's important is how I got there, which was just I had absolutely no idea, so I tried a bunch of really stupid crap. And so for you right now, when do you hard flank with Kiriko? When do you soft angle? When do you heal bot? You know, go try it out. Take notes. Experiment. Look in the replay viewer. Did we lose because I was taking a hard flank? Do I think the value was there? I don't know. You just have to experiment. But you have to experiment with a purpose, and then crucially, you do have to go and reflect on it. You can't just be like, oh, I guess I worked on that. You got to pull up the replay view. You got to think about it. You got to look at the results. Because sometimes you might take a flank and it works, but your team just explodes to like 4 ults. You know, you can't be like, oh, I guess that was bad. Well, maybe it wasn't. You got to look at the context. And then you got to do it again. 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 Do you understand? So it's purposeful experimentation. That's the key thing. It's not just limit testing for the sake of limit testing. It's purposeful limit testing. Deliberate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. And that's really the principle for everything. You just have to, again, we kind of bring up that board game example I was talking about earlier. I go full extreme when I'm playing something for the first time. I try the absolute like caricature of strategies. Full on economy, full on aggression, full on flank, full on this. You know, it's not really a good strategy at the start, but it does give you a lot of feedback pretty darn quick. You understand what I'm saying? So no grays. Like right now, do you like your position right now?
I like it.
Why?
I have the option to damage and heal. If I wanted to, I could deepen my angle just into that room and maybe rotate left, which I think
let me stop
might
you right
do.
there. You just said the most important thing. If I wanted to. Well, why don't you want to? Why aren't you doing that right now? Should you?
There's a little risk.
Why? Is it worth the risk?
Bit.
You see what I'm saying? These are the questions you have to answer here, right? Because you being like, this feels like decent value, that's not good enough, right? Like sometimes you have to kind of overshoot your goals to reach your goals, right? You kind of talked about like, I shouldn't feel the need to self-moderate if I just want to hit diamond. Yeah, maybe. But maybe this is just what is going to be necessary for you to break this hump. Where should you be? Not where could you be, but where should you be? And I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm not going to tell you if this angle's better, if this angle's better, if this angle's better. You're going to have to go figure that out. When is this angle good? When is this angle bad?
I've got you.
What do you think?
Not great. I can
Why?
only really shoot the Zarya. So
what's the optimal angle here?
as soon as I find that out, though, I think I rotate left and peek out there.
Should you have done this first, or should you have done this?
Probably.
Okay, why?
I think I should have done this first.
How could you have known that this is the better angle without any sort of feedback?
The way I'm gonna guess, the way that the cover works is that in order for me to be close enough to cover, I have such a narrow like window to throw out my kunai, whereas I have cover on this left thing and I can see more while I'm behind cover.
So you're saying your theory is that seeing more on a Kiriko angle is better than seeing less?
Yes.
Let me know your results. Thoughts?
I'm not doing much here.
So
I need to rotate.
So what's the problem? Why are you here then?
Huh.
Why are you here? I'm giving you some context, kind of, right, to what led you to that decision or that position. If this is against what your theory is,
here because I peek out here because I feel like I need to heal a little bit. Maybe my Juno's able to handle it. Whatever. I think that me being with the cast there is hopefully just it's kind of just a transitional like I'm rotating.
Still begs the question though, what's going to stop more damage? You healing your diva or you shooting from this flank here?
Me shooting from this flank.
How do you know that?
They're gonna look at me and stop shooting the diva, hopefully.
Are you sure that that's going to be more damage that you're going to pull away from the diva than healing? How do you know the difference? How do you know when to heal versus when to damage her?
Honestly, I don't know what to look out for. I know Diva still has a little bit of armor, and she's not like terribly low. She's about 2/3 HP. So
Let me
think,
ask you
like,
a question. So let me pause you right there, though. But because if in theory you're preventing more damage by damaging than you are by healing, what does it matter what HP your diva's at? Because if she's critical, wouldn't it still make more sense to damage if it's better than healing? Do you see what I'm saying?
If they see, I feel like if you see someone critical, though, you might kind of just shoot that thing more because you can taste the blood.
So you're saying they would ignore you on the angle here.
No, they wouldn't ignore me on the angle, but if the diva were like
If
really
the diva,
low,
well, that's
they
what I'm
would.
saying. If
They
the diva
might.
was crit, they would ignore. But no, wait a second. So you're saying this angle only has value if they focus you. Otherwise, your team just dies.
This angle also has value when I actually get damage out, and especially if I kill someone.
Okay, so that kill threat is why they look at you. So if they focus your diva because she's critical and ignore you, and your diva gets demeched, could you, in theory, disproportionately get pressure here? Could you get kills here that you otherwise couldn't because they're not looking at you?
Yes.
You should. In theory,
Yeah,
if
I
your
should.
theory is correct.
If my mechanics are up to snuff.
So you're
then,
saying
yeah.
that you would sell your diva to secure a kill if you're uncontested? Something to consider. I don't know. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. All I'm saying is it's something that you got to figure out. Because you said that, like, oh, well, you know, what if they ignore me and focus my diva, then I should heal. But that still doesn't make any sense, right? So then what's the point of damaging in the first place? Right? You got to find out what makes more sense, damage or healing. You know, where's the best place to do it? Like right now, your diva is taking a lot of damage and yet you're focused on Echo. Is this the right play? You know? Let's just keep going for a second, and then let's look at another fight. Let's keep applying your theory. Any questions so far?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, I know we're asking a lot of questions, but if you've noticed, there's nothing very complicated about what you have to test. All you have to do is what makes a good angle good, what makes a bad angle bad, when should I go back to heal versus when should I stay in my angle. Those are only 2 questions that you have to answer in your practice. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's probably going to be mostly all we're going to be asking for this entire review. Those 2 questions. Do you like this angle right now? Is this an effective angle?
I'd say yeah. I think you saw me almost rotate out because I was like, damn, I can't see anyone. But I'm like, hold on a second, they're gonna be here soon. Let me just try shooting at them some more.
Okay. Why is this a good angle?
It's not with my team, so they have to like focus on me and they can't shoot anyone else.
Remember you just described earlier, though, when you were doing that, it didn't feel as good versus the Zarya, that narrow corridor. Do you feel that you have the same problem here, or is it better?
I think it's better.
Why? What was better? What was bad about the Zarya angle that you said that you think is bad? So kind of put you mentally. You said you weren't so sure about this, but you said, I think this is better. I think just because I see more. Is this the similar situation? Do you see more, and is that why it's better? Okay.
I see a lot, and I have cover. I can hug that left wall. Even if I want to go up, I have that sign with the llama.
Okay. Should you damage or should you heal your diva here?
Damage, 100%.
Why?
My diva's full HP.
Say your diva's
She's
half.
getting beamed by the Czar.
So what if she's half?
balance maybe. Like just get
So
her, just
weave.
like throw out the thing and then shoot twice and then throw out the Ofuda.
Okay. So maybe some weaving, all right? Should you have stayed or should you go back?
I think I should have stayed.
Why?
Everyone's full. Yeah.
What if they weren't full? What if they're half? Because they're going to be half soon. Something to consider. I mean, I don't. Not all these questions can have answers right now. You need to experiment more, right? Because
Okay,
look,
so I think my idea here,
yeah. Go ahead.
I remember my idea here being the Zarya starts taking more space. So my idea is to rotate all the way around. Yeah, to like to there, like almost where the camera is, like somewhere around there. That's my new angle.
How should you have done that? You think this is the most efficient way of doing that?
I could. I don't think burning TP here is the answer. We've talked about like TP being an escape tool more than a engage
Is there nuance for that?
tool. Yeah, there's nuance for that. What is it, 7 seconds? So if I get it back in 7 seconds before I might need it, then
When would you do it then?
it's like as soon as I realize that I want to rotate.
Like now. Like just TP to May
Yeah.
or whatever now and then start walking. Okay. Why did you feel the need to rotate here? Like, because you're gonna end up on an angle. Do you like your damage healing options better? Do you like the sightline better? If so, why?
I like my damage healing options better.
Got it. Okay. So you're liking better vision where you have choices and not you're forced into only one playstyle.
Yeah.
Are there
If I
exceptions to that
remained
rule?
on that angle, my team is backing up. So if I remained on that previous angle here, I can only damage. Which is yeah, well,
It's pretty juicy, isn't it?
it is quite juicy.
So you're gonna have to figure out when is it better to get a perfect weave angle versus when is it, oh my gosh, this damage angle is just so OP. You have to use your judgment. You have to experiment. I'm glad that you're thinking about this stuff. Because this, what you're doing right now, at least here, is you are trying things. You're experimenting. You're being deliberate with what you're doing. Like, we're very clearly getting some weaving in here. You see it?
Yeah.
It's good. Is it the best? I don't know. What do you think about your position now?
Not that great. I believe I take height now. The right side. I will climb up. Okay, do it faster. Come on. Okay.
Thoughts?
I really don't have to give up height there. This is good. This is
Feels a bit cramped here, no? Attacking through here? Doesn't feel like there's a really good angle.
yeah.
So should you just be more passive or should you be much more high risk, high reward? It's a tough question, isn't it? Pro players don't always know the answer to that. Very deliberately weaving. Are you pleased with your decision here? To weave?
Yeah.
I think so too.
My diva needs it.
Okay. You pleased with your kitsune? Not with the result, but with the intention.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Okay, maybe.
What's the metric for using an ultimate?
You're up one, you're down one.
Is that correct here? Yeah.
Yeah.
So good ult.
Your Weaver and Zarya come back.
Winnable or losable fight here. So yeah, good stuff. No complaints from me. Nice job. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Okay. What are some questions that we have to answer so far?
Like so much about angles, like whether or not I should sell my diva's life or sell anyone's life to remain on an angle and hopefully get a kill. What makes a good angle good, a bad angle bad? When should I damage or heal? Am I missing anything?
No, I mean, that's fine. I mean, really, I want questions that stand out to you, that interest to you, because it's going to be a lot easier to practice things that are actually interesting to you. You know, it's just like school, right? You always do well in the subjects that actually kind of interest you most of the time, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to answer these questions, at least the questions that are interesting to you. Like, for example, right now, are you pleased with your positioning here? I'm always implying something negative by asking that question, but that's not necessarily the case, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe this is good, right? Maybe this is bad. I don't know.
I don't know. It's kind of just like poking. I don't. If anything, I would just stage to where I want to be the next fight. Probably.
Are you doing that right here?
My team.
Like, where's the fight going to happen right now? Like, just for context, just in case you've lost, you've got your diva in spawn. So, what are your thoughts? Okay, and you would have known this in the moment. Let's be very clear. Like, we're kind of losing context because we keep pausing, but this is where we're at.
I'm guessing they're going to probably push a little bit more.
What are your thoughts then on this position then for when the fight develops? Does this give you options?
I think this will give me options.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I want to chime in here to give you some confidence because I'm really thinking you're doing a great job here. I want to be very clear. I'm not giving you clear answers because I want you to. This needs to be how you're going. I mean, this is going to how you play the game, right? You're not going to have me in your ear all the time, right? But you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. I really am pleased with some of the questions and some of the conclusions that you've come with. You've definitely are in a good spot to experiment. Thoughts?
We're poking. I decided to take this risk.
Is this a good angle or a bad angle? So ignoring whether it's worth it to damage or to heal, why is this good?
I can very clearly see the Weaver. Unfortunately, he has so much survivability that I probably can't. Yep, there's the dash. But I might have gotten 2 CDs out of that, the fade and the dash. So,
It's not just CDs either, too, right? It's also positioning. This guy's not in as good of a position to contribute. The Moira's not in as good of a position to contribute. In fact, the reason that you live grab here is because you force them out. You see this? Now, that is a results-based type of thinking. Do you think the spirit of what you did was appropriate for what we needed right now? You see what I'm saying? Even if you miss all your shots, was it still the right play?
I think so.
Feels like it.
I mean, as soon as she grabbed, I'm like, fuck. Should I have been like behind my team healing them? And I was like, oh wait, we live that. Okay, sure.
Something to consider. Okay. And also, you may not always be able. Your job is not to protect your team. That's only one part of your job, right? That's what changes if you've ever played Rivals. That's the difference between Rivals and an Overwatch, right there. Support in Overwatch is nuance. Support in Rivals is not. And so you make your decision with what you do. You also highlighted something very important here. When is it appropriate to heal a critical teammate versus damage an enemy? Suzu. Suzu is a great equalizer because it's a burst heal cleanse. You get what I'm saying? So Suzu demands very little attention, and it's more than just a heal. You get what I'm saying? It's like healing your teammates and then anti-nading the enemies. It's a quick burst thing that has a very high value, and then you can continue doing what you're doing otherwise.
But I have to TP in that case because I can't.
True. So your angle was such that it was all or nothing, whether damage or heal. You notice that? So you either TP in the middle of your team and only heal and risk your life, or you only damage. So you better darn well consider whether your angle is appropriate for that. When you were here, were you in a good position first fight to Susie or Diva? She's critical. No, you're not. Doesn't mean it's a bad angle. Just something to consider.
Start pushing the barricade. Oh, I feel all warm inside. Check out the enemy's turret. Infused with light.
Thoughts?
Good. I deepen my angle here, which is good. I probably healing that Diva is unnecessary. Yep. Rushing back, I think, is good. The team fight's starting. We're all here.
This is always going to be very difficult to break because it's just uphill on push. It's just the nature of push. Thoughts on everything so far in terms of your damage versus healing?
I'm satisfied with the balance.
I am too. I think TP away was unfortunate, to be honest with you. I don't know that I would have TP'd away because I don't like where you ended. You see this?
Yeah.
But
maybe
avoiding
Gino
the
is
duel
better.
or respecting
Yeah.
her is probably good because she's one orb away from killing you now, right? You kind of misplayed the duel just a little bit. But also, this was good. I really liked also how you Kitsuna'd from the angle to your team. Well, that was really good. I just don't like where you're at right now. Because you still died to the orb, right? But you weren't able to find safety. Either directly confront your threat or completely avoid your threat. No in between. You don't close your eyes and avoid the monsters in Overwatch, right? They're gonna kill you. You either completely avoid them or you look at them straight in the eye. Your choice. Okay. Thoughts?
Quite far away. I like my cover though, and the Torb seems to be walking up toward me. Honestly, I don't know. Well, let me think. Maybe there are better angles here. I honestly don't know where I would rather be though. Maybe actually I could deepen my angle by walking right.
Is this better than where you're at? If so, why?
It's closer.
Is that better for you?
That's better for me. I mean, I'm a projectile.
But who else is a projectile?
That's gonna help Torb. I've lost many a 1v1s with Torb.
So let's evaluate again. Is this a better for you or is this worse for you?
I'd say worse.
That's a question you're gonna have to answer. So we've now got a question of how deep of an angle or how close of an angle is appropriate for Kiriko. What do you think of where you're at right now?
Good. That actually, I kind of just ended up where I needed to be because the sim TP'd into our backline. I don't think I know it yet.
So
I just completely am blind. Okay.
But that's a problem though. You're hindsight coaching. It ended up working out maybe where you wanted to, but where should you have been? Should you have stayed? Should you have deepened, or should you have shallowed?
I think I should have stayed
I
because
agree.
the Torb is still, yeah.
You shallowed your angle, and this is your job. So this is certainly something worth experimenting with. Did you avoid it because it was Torb? I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think me remaining on that angle or not shallowing it could have definitely helped. We are playing Diva into double beam, triple beam if you count Moira though, so
how are you gonna win this game then?
We don't.
Okay, but how are you gonna win this game then?
I think I just have to keep doing what I'm doing. Or not doing what I'm doing, but just like playing good angles and win, lose, or draw. I mean, you know.
I mean, you can't. You're trying to fill a pond with a bucket with a hole in it if you're healing your diva, or only healing your diva. Because you described the problem. Oh, we're playing diva into double beam on a flat map. Yeah, sure. So what's your solution then going to be, right? Where are you going to get value? Because Zarya and Sim have downsides. right?
Feels good, huh?
They're not very fast characters. They're not very long-range characters either. Thoughts? Disposition? This Kitsune?
This is kind of just down main.
Kitsune is, you know, whatever, but yeah.
Yeah.
Vision just feels really bad. And, yeah. So, we get greffed, and we die.
They're catching up to us.
I mean, your tank even makes quote-unquote the right swap here, right? Like, Ramattra is pretty decent versus this, but, okay. Thoughts?
I think I like my position here. It has they just don't look at me, but
Yeah, but we've talked about this before. Why aren't they looking at me? Why aren't you making them look at you? You're doing nothing that demands them to give you attention right now. So why would they look at you? You know, threat isn't theoretical. A threat is direct. That's why angles matter. You can't just sit there and look. You have to be like, well, you have to hurt people when they don't look at you. And you're not hurting people. At least not anymore. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah.
There's no reason for you to have the perk here, the Swift Step perk, because you're not using Swift Step. And you're not using Swift Step because you're not being pushed. And you're not being pushed because you're not doing anything. And that's the map. So you got some questions to answer, right? Let's write them down. You can put them in your channel. You can write them down physically. I prefer physically, but whatever you want to do is fine for me. What needs to be practiced?
Okay.
What needs to be not actually, that's the wrong. What questions need to be answered? You're now a research scientist, okay? You have a goal, a purpose, a specific handful of questions that must be answered. What are those questions?
What makes a good angle good?
Correct.
A bad angle bad?
Sure.
When should I deepen, stay, shallow an angle? Like with the Torb example, what might be someone who, like, I want to duel close range versus I don't want to duel close range?
Sure.
When should I damage versus heal or weave?
And that seems like enough questions. Maybe you can add more as you go along. How to use Suzu. You know, and weaving and, like you said, and range and yeah. But these seem like good questions to answer. Good luck.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me give you some confidence here. I think these questions and your ability to answer these questions by practicing in-game, I think you're capable of it. You did a really good job in this review. You did an excellent job. Keep it up. Now, do you have any questions? Would you like me to answer any questions? Because I can.
I guess, like, what do you see, like, circling back, why am I still plat 5? Like, what
Okay.
do you see in this?
From this
Do you
particular
think that
game.
be as harsh as you need to be?
Yes, I will
Like,
be as
what
harsh.
am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong?
From
Like,
this
what do I need to do?
very small sample size, 10 fights, 11 fights, right? Your angles were reasonable, but you lost faith in your offensive pressure, especially towards the end. It wasn't terrible at the start. There's some weaving, there's some damage. The back half, you were completely ornamental. You did nothing to help your Diva or Ramatra. You would, even at the last fight, a little bit of poke on Sim for some resources, and then just walked away and heal botted. You did nothing to force their attention on you whatsoever.
Okay.
The angles
Do I need to,
themselves
like-
weren't terrible. I think that's something you need to experiment with, but I think we need more offensive output from at least from the Kiriko example.
Do I need
That's
to
my opinion.
change my practice habits somehow? Because I've kind of just, like, every time I've played Curie over the past 2 months, I've been like, angles. I want to go in practicing angles, and it seems like that has, like, kind of worked, but it looks like I still need a lot of work on that. So, like, what do
Well-
I need to specifically improve about this?
Well, I just told you, right? It's not necessarily the angles that you're taking. It's how you're behaving on the angles. Now, I do think it's about the angles that you're taking. We talked about it more in deliberate. What type of angle is good? What type of angle is bad? But then also, how do I behave on that angle? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That needs to be changed or experimented with. experimented with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Don't look for an easy answer here. There isn't an easy answer. There isn't like a one key tip that's going to change things. It's how your behavior needs to change, and that is a series of dozens of little details that need to be practiced over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's going to start with what is a good angle, what is a bad angle, how should I behave on this angle, and why. And that's going to take experimentation. Does that make sense?
Okay. So I should probably like start self-voting.
Possibly, briefly, occasionally, when you experiment, limit test, and want to study the results. Sure. Should be very short though, 5-10 minutes tops. If probably like 2 or 3 minutes even. Just look at a couple of fights. That's all.
Okay.
Specifically look at fights where you tried something different or tried something new or you weren't sure about the result of what you should have done. Don't always look at the result, obviously. Look at like contextually, did it make sense? Was I pulling more resources away from my team?